everybody. This is a Science Bridge webinar series, and this is You Can Do It series. Today, my guest is Lauren Geraty. Lauren graduated from University of Pretoria with Veterinary Medicine and Surgery bachelor degree. And then she continued her education at WITS, where she received the MBA degree. She worked as a vet, however, later on she moved into industry where she started off as technical and marketing veterinarian. She further climbed her ladder and became a product manager for veterinary products portfolio. Interestingly, Lauren moved towards human side of science and became medical science liaison for immunology and vaccines. Currently, Lauren is head of rare diseases in one of the leading international companies producing originator molecules and biologicals. So hello, Lauren.
Hi, how are you?
Well, I'm well, and I'm very excited to have you on this webinar series because I think that your career path is quite unique and I think you have a lot to share with our audience.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity.
No, absolutely. As I said, like you have a great background and your career is kind of growing all the time and in different directions than one would expect. So this is amazing. So let's start with your general background, like where are you from and actually why you decided to be a vet initially.
Thank you. So I actually grew up in Pretoria, and that's where I attended high school. And I always had a very strong interest in the sciences and in biology, and I loved animals and also loved marine animals. So, you know, when I came to matric and going to university, I really wanted to choose something that I thought would be a good fit for me. And so the science side of veterinary science was very challenging, but the content was also going to be very interesting. So it was a really good fit at that time in my life. And I finished school and matriculated in 2004, so quite a while ago. And between 2005 and 2011, I then completed my veterinary science degree at the University of Pretoria. And at the time for us, we had a 7-year qualification that consisted of a 3-year Bachelor of Science degree or BSc degree in veterinary biology and a 4-year program for the Bachelor of Veterinary Science, which is the BVSc. So initially for those first 2 years that we were at the main campus, we were a whole bunch of students, so approximately 1,000 students who were all competing for about 110 places at Onderstepoort, which is the veterinary faculty. And so I really actually enjoyed the first few years because I'm very competitive and I enjoyed the content, and it was just nice to be able to push yourself to try and get into this program. And once I got there, I absolutely loved it. I enjoyed the content, I enjoyed the technical side of it, I enjoyed the learning, I enjoyed the student life, and I absolutely loved studying veterinary science. And at that point in my life, it was something that I was passionate about, something that I wanted to pursue. And it's interesting as you get more exposed to the world and you grow older and you experience new things, your interests also evolve. And so I loved veterinary science and I knew what I wanted to do with becoming a veterinarian, but I also realized that what my perception of what the degree and the lifestyle was as a vet and what the reality was were a bit different. And so based upon that, I really wanted to explore other career opportunities and explore the business world. So after graduating from my veterinary degree, I worked in private practice full-time for 6 months before moving into an industry role. And I joined a company where I was the technical and marketing veterinarian. And it was a position that allowed me to use my veterinary background, but also to explore marketing and the business background. And subsequently, I really enjoyed it a lot and went on to do my MBA degree. And yeah, my career has really evolved from there, focusing on a mix of science and business.
So I'll firstly ask you, you said that your expectations of veterinary career were different from what actually the reality was. So how was it different?
Yeah, so I think in your mind, you sort of see the glamorous side of veterinary science. To me, it was really about, what you see like the vets on TV where they rush into the scene and they save the animal's life and everything ends well. But there were a lot of other sides, very long working hours, sometimes not so glamorous conditions. And I actually struggled a lot with things like euthanasia and saw some cruelty towards animals, unfortunately, in the position that I was in. And I found it very tough to manage that side of it. And I think I'm quite a softie, so it was really hard for me. So it just unfortunately wasn't the ideal fit, but I loved the science of it, and I still love it. But just it was really tough to work as a veterinarian.
So you said that after that you moved to a company. How did you manage to get there? Like, what was your first steps?
Oh, that's a great question. So initially what I did was I was working full-time in private practice, and I wanted to move into a role where I could still use my background, but also explore the business side. So initially I started off by contacting different recruitment agents, and I think that was quite a good way to start. They can be a bit challenging sometimes, and sometimes they don't get back to you, and there's that whole side of it as well. But what they did do early on was they really helped to understand me and where I was going, and then where my gaps were, and also what would be a good starting position for me. So it was actually through one of the recruitment agents that I found out that the pharmaceutical industry was recruiting for a technical and marketing veterinarian. And then after that, I applied for the role, and luckily I was successful. But what they also exposed me to were that there were a whole bunch of different careers out there, and I could pivot in my career choices. Like, it wasn't just what I studied was what I had to be, but that I could use what I'd studied to become what I wanted to be in the future, depending on how I wanted to grow my career. So yeah, that's how I went into industry. But having said that, quite a few of the pharmaceutical companies, including the company that I work for, they do offer a lot of career opportunities to graduates. So for example, our company's got a graduate program that you can enter, and it's quite an entry-level job spec. But what they do is they allow you to see different parts of the business, and then from there decide where you want to grow and what opportunities are there. So one of the career advices that I did get very early on was from the recruitment agents was kind of just to get your foot in the door if that's where you want to go, and then from there look at climbing. So just to put yourself out there and see what opportunities there are and grow from that point.
Yeah, that's quite important to put yourself out there, because as you say, the career that you choose when you're 19 is not necessarily what you want to do, and you might need to pivot from there, but still basing on your knowledge, because you were at that time using your veterinary knowledge. So how did you interact? What was your day-to-day job as the veterinarian working for a company? Sorry.
Sure. So when I first started in my role, so it was a lot more of the technical side. So as a veterinarian, you provide the support in answering a lot of queries around the diseases that different animals have and the treatments that the company offers. So in that role, I helped a lot with vaccination schedules, like which animals should be vaccinated when and for which diseases. We also had a lot of therapeutics, so anti-inflammatory drugs or cardiovascular system drugs, so animals that already had a disease, that we could offer the support through our treatments, and a lot of training. So I helped to train the sales reps, we helped to train a lot of vets, vet nurses, veterinary practices on the products that we had. So from that side, it was really nice to be able to use, it was purely my scientific knowledge and the knowledge that I brought out of clinical practice to be able to apply that, but now from the company's perspective. And then in addition to that, being on the marketing side, it was really introductory marketing at that point. I was learning what a product manager does. I was given a really tiny portfolio, and by tiny, it was so small. It was a few horse dewormers actually. And I was given the first chance to put together an advert and to put together a product strategy and go out to doctors and to talk about it, doctors in this case being veterinarians, and to talk to them about it. So very foundation business skills, but it was really kind of my company to give me that opportunity, because from there I grew in confidence and eventually became a product manager and now the head of a division. So good starting points.
No, definitely. And I was wondering, so your education was veterinary medicine, but then how did you apply that when you started to switching towards a human and becoming a medical science liaison, when you have to translate all that knowledge to human side?
Yes, so that's a really good question. And so with my career path, I was with this animal health division of the pharmaceutical company that I was in for about 5 and a bit years. And during that time, I completed an MBA degree. So that was between 2015 and 2017. And when I completed my MBA degree, I was kind of ready for something new. I'd been in 5 years in animal health. I'd learned some new foundational skills from the MBA, especially in strategy and in finance. And I was just looking for new opportunities. And at that point in time, the animal health industry is quite small and it's quite consolidated. So there's not a lot of roles that open up. And so I decided to take a chance again and to apply to the human pharmaceutical side. The struggle that I had was that I didn't have any experience on the human pharmaceutical side, even though I'd had quite good experience on the animal health side. So in the interview process, the company that I work for now, they were actually amazing. And they said, you know, why don't you come in as a medical science liaison? It's a senior position, it's on the medical side. So you can use that knowledge that you have as a veterinarian to translate all the studies and the articles, but it also gives you an opportunity to go out and learn about the market, because the human medical side works very differently to the animal health side. So get to know the doctors, get to know the key opinion leaders, understand the science behind immunology and vaccines, and then understand how that then gets translated as well into a medical strategy. And yeah, it was a really great opportunity to go in, try something new, and to use my knowledge, and then in a way also prove myself in that role, that I was able to come into a different field and be willing to learn and to try and to do well in it.
Yeah, constantly adapt, I guess, through your...
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you, because medical science liaison is quite a competitive position, and as you said, it's a senior position. So that's amazing that they just allowed you to come in on board without any experience in the field.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting. I think the companies really do look for scientists who are quite strong. So the company that I've worked at, you really have to put in the interview process, you really need to be quite strong and in your knowledge and in what you want, and be a people person. But the companies don't always require experience. In fact, a lot of our MSLs at the company have come from graduate programs. So for example, there's an MSL from the diabetes team who's now become a medical advisor. And he came in straight out of university, straight out of a master's program. So they're not always requiring you to have experience. I think they look to see what is your potential and what can you bring to the business that's new and unique, and how can you add value. So experience is important, but it's not the most important thing.
Okay. And now your experience as a head of rare diseases department, it sounds very, very serious. And how does that work? What's your day-to-day experience?
So it's a good question. I have a lot of people who work in my team. So I have a sales team, and they are responsible for going out into the field, into the hospitals, in both the private and the public sectors, and they create awareness about the diseases that we work with. And we also offer testing services and a lot of diagnostic support. So I'm there to support the team. So I spend a lot of time working with them, both on an individual basis and a collective basis. I also work closely with the marketing team to make sure that we can put together strategies that are applicable to our market and materials that the team can then use to be supported in field to deliver our key messages and execute the strategy. And then a lot of meetings. I spend a lot of time in the management of the business. So the financial side, HR side, supply chain, making sure we've got stock in the country, and a lot of time with our key opinion leaders and key stakeholders in this field, building relationships, addressing issues that may arise, finding new opportunities for the business. Yeah, so a lot of different things, but a lot of what I do is really there to empower the people within my team to execute their roles to the best of their ability. Because when you have a strong team of individuals who all come to the party, your team really gels together, and you're able to really manage that team well and really move the whole business forward. And that's what we really try to do.
Yeah, so it's really focused on leadership skills role.
Yes, yeah, quite a lot of leadership. Yeah.
So it all sounds nice and relaxed, but what were your sticky points when you were going through all this journey?
Oh, yeah, that's very true. I think, it's, you never want to say it when you like in the interview process, but there's a lot of self-doubt, I think, that crept in for me. When you put yourself out there, you are quite vulnerable. So what was challenging was trying to like sell yourself. Like when I wanted to be a MSL or a medical science liaison, I really doubted that I could do it. I doubted that I had the abilities to change from one field to another. I doubted that they would hire me. I always kept thinking somebody else is going to be better at this role. And then when I moved into a leadership position, I doubted, was I going to be a good manager? Was I going to be able to lead a team? So that was quite challenging. And I've learned probably not to be so hard on myself. And especially these A-type personalities that we find in the scientific field, we are really hard on ourselves and we often are perfectionists. So just to be a bit kinder to yourself in the process and view it more as a learning experience. I mean, what's the worst that can happen is you don't get the job or the job doesn't work out and you try something else. But think of all the things that you can gain. You can gain such awesome work experience. You can meet such great people. You can network, and you never know where you're going to end up or which role you're going to have. So I would say 2 things that are sticky points. Don't be afraid to take chances and put yourself out there. And number 2, believe in yourself, because especially if you come from a science background, it's tough. Those undergraduate programs and postgraduate programs really do push you a lot, and you're a lot smarter and more capable than what you think.
Yeah, that's true. And how does the company help you with going through those self-doubt moments? Is there any support system for like leadership position?
Yeah, so I mean, there's different levels of support. I think your first primary level of support is really having a good manager. And I think that's one thing that you should always be aware of. Like if you are interviewing, when you do the interview, you need to interview that manager as much as what they're interviewing you. So someone that you can work with, someone who's got your back and who can support you. Because so much of that one-on-one engagement with your manager helps to build that confidence and helps you through the tough times, because you're going to have good times, but you're going to have stressful times as well. So I think that's a lot of coaching that comes from your manager. And then the company also does offer a lot of different leadership programs, programs to help upskill yourself. So those are offered on both a formal training basis and an informal training basis. So we've got online educational courses that you can access. And then, depending on where you are in your career, they do also offer mentorship programs. And I've had a few mentorship programs. I've actually had 2 within the company that I'm in from more senior leadership. And then also on a private basis, I also have like life skills coach who helps me also just with career development and just helping to like refine some of those areas that I may not be as polished on as I would like. So those have definitely helped.
No, that sounds like quite a lot of assistance. And I don't know if all the companies offer it, but I'm sure that if big international companies like yours are actually offering this type of programs. So what would be your advice to the young scientists who are afraid of graduation, afraid to go out there to the big world?
Yeah, it's a good question. My advice would be really just to put yourself out there. Believe in yourself. Don't be afraid of failure, which is tough, especially in our generation. I think, as I mentioned earlier, that perception of doubt and being afraid to fail. Put yourself out there, believe in yourself, and try different things. Now, one thing that I remember when I was doing my MBA is that we had a lot of these companies that came in, whether they were pharmaceutical companies or management consulting companies like McKinsey and Bain and PwC and all those guys. And they were always really interested in people with scientific backgrounds. And I always wondered why that was. And the one night at one of these recruiting evenings, engagements that they had, the one consultant said to me, the reason that they love people with science backgrounds is because you're highly analytical. So you're able to build a whole bunch of critical thinking skills that you don't always find in some of the other fields. You're able to problem solve. Scientists are really good at thinking things through from a hypothesis all the way through to a solution. And when you see yourself in that light as having a unique skill set that can be applied in many different areas, I think it gives you a lot more confidence to go out there and to try new things. So even if you studied something that you love, it doesn't always mean that that's necessarily where you have to stay. You can stay if you want, but you can also try new things, and just know that the world is a lot more open to you and your skill set than what you might have initially imagined. Don't be afraid and just go for it.
Well, those are great words. Like, don't be afraid, go out there, put yourself out there, and keep in mind that your skill set is very unique and it can be applied wildly. Well, thank you so much for this time and conversation and all the experience that you shared with us. I'm sure that a lot of our viewers will have a great knowledge base from this interview.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity again. I really appreciate it.
Well, have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Thank you. Bye.